So once you've successfully added the country, you need to now manage the entire process for that country. So to do that, click on View Representing Country, and this will list out all the countries you have added so far. So in order to manage the process, click on View Application Process, and that will give you the details on what you have added. Now in front of every status, there is an auto email icon. Now what that means is whatever content you'll add here will be sent out automatically to the student every time that status is changed. So for example, this email icon in front of the conditional offer allows me to add an email subject and content, which means that as soon as a student receives a conditional offer and the status changes to conditional offer, this email will be sent out to the student. So I can still decide on an email subject and write the email content. It's important to note that you don't need to send students' name, the course they've applied to, institution they've applied to, their reference number. Everything will be generated automatically. You only need to add the content, which is the next set of instructions. For example, on a conditional offer, you may want to write here, congratulations, you have received an offer letter, a conditional offer letter. The next step is to now fulfill the conditions, so please contact your counselor in order to download your offer letter. Go onto our website and download it using your reference number, or maybe contact the advisor directly, and your email has the offer letter has been sent out to you directly. So that's what you need to fill in and save it, and now this will be sent out to the students as soon as the status changes. Now there is again a green turn on, turn off button here, which will allow you to sort of deactivate any status. For example, any country changes their existing process and you want to deactivate it, then you can. It's pretty simple. Just by going on deactivate, you can deactivate it, and you can reactivate it if you want to activate it again. Similarly, if you want to edit it and call it something else, then by clicking on edit button, you can simply change the name. So for example, you don't want to call it unconditional offer, want to call it acceptance letter or something like that, then you're more than welcome to do that. And similarly, if there is any addition, for example, after enrollment, you want to also write down commission received. So, add a new status, and I can call it and submit it. Now if I go on the application process, I'll have a new status number 13 as commission received. Again, I can add. I don't need to add a template here because student does not need to know about my commission status. Then I will just not add anything and no email will be sent out. So that's about the template management and the status management. Now there is another menu in the country process called manage status. So if I click on that, now this will allow me to actually select the status which means conversion for me. For example, now all my reports would talk about the student is converted. So what is conversion for me? Is a visa acceptance conversion, or is it commission received a conversion, or is it enrollment a conversion? So it's a radio button, which means it only allows you to select one of the statuses, and all my reports when talk about conversion would only refer to this status, and it can be different for every country. So it could be enrolled in the case of UK, it could be AIP in case of New Zealand, it could be commission received in case of France. So it depends, on when do you want to consider that your counselor's job is done, or you consider the students converted. So in this case, for example, I take commission received as conversion. So that'll become this new status, and in front of every status again there's an alarm for processing office. Now if you use a processing office, it's important for you, and I'll come back to it when we talk about processing office, what it does and how it operates. But if you are processing your application centrally, then in that case, it's important that you highlight those steps where your processing office needs to take some actions. So, for example, there is a visa rejection. Then in that case, maybe your processing office needs to take certain steps immediately to allow student to either apply for a refund or apply for reprocessing. Now, this could be a job done by a counselor. So in that case, you don't need to highlight it because it's a job of a counselor, not of a processing office. But if there's a application which has conditions fulfilled, then the processing office needs to send that documents out and to the institution. So these are the alarm statuses that you may require, and by submitting it, you can save it. Similarly, you have status notes for every status. So in this case, I've already filled it. For example, with every status, here comes what to do next. So if there's a new application, then there are notes attached to it that please forward it to the institution. Please make sure the following documents are successfully attached. If there's a conditional offer or if there's a CAS issued, then the next thing is to apply for visa. It talks about which website to go to in order to apply for visa and to take an appointment. So what this notes stands for is when your counselor or processing office is at any particular step, they don't need to sort of go here and there in terms of looking at what's need to be done next. Now, the reason why this is important to sort of keep it up to date, because if the rules keep changing, you don't need to inform it to every single branch office, every single counselor. If a little thing change, for example, there's a new requirement of an additional document, you may want to write a circular, but people still forget. So then you have to, if these notes are handy, they can make sure that they're following what's written in terms of how to move forward from a step A to step B. So this is status notes. Now I'll go back and look at if there's a new status to be added. Again, I can click here and add a new status like I did for enroll or commission. And if I want to deactivate a country, for example, I don't want anybody to send any more applications to UK. So I can just deactivate it. And I can reactivate it if I turn it back to green. So this is what the view representing country does. I've done it very, very briefly and very, very quickly, but when you really have to set and configure it, it would need a little bit of planning. So, while you're actually managing your application process, steps and templates and things like that, just be careful and do it, with some research so that, you're able to sort of handle your students well and experience a higher conversion rate.